In the vast silence of the cosmos, secrets drift between the stars, ancient, unfathomable, waiting to be discovered. We gaze upward, searching for answers in distant galaxies and black holes. Yet, some mysteries are buried much closer to home. Beneath the waves and within forgotten stones, echoes of lost civilizations whisper through time, calling to those who dare to listen. Stories passed from shadow to shadow. Tales of vanished worlds, of glory and ruin, of secrets submerged by the tides of history. One legend, above all, has haunted the dreams of humankind for over 2,000 years. The story of a lost city, an island of unimaginable wealth and power, swallowed by the sea in a single, terrible night. This is the legend of Atlantis, a name that echoes through the corridors of history, a ghost haunting our collective imagination. Our journey does not begin with sonar or submersibles, but with the words of a philosopher whose stories still ripple through time. Around 360 BC, Plato wrote of Atlantis in the dialogues Timaeus and Critias, planting a mystery that endures to this day. He described a formidable naval power, located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. This was no mere village, it was a marvel of engineering and social structure, a concentric city of rings of land and rings of water, adorned with temples coated in precious metals. Its rulers, said to descend from Poseidon, governed a just and noble society, at least in its early days. Plato's account is remarkably specific: geography, abundant resources, exotic fruits, metals, and orichalcum, second only to gold in value. A sophisticated civilization with a powerful military, complex government, and grand architecture. But over time, the Atlanteans grew greedy, corrupt, and arrogant. Their ambition led them to war against Athens and the Mediterranean world, a war they would lose. And then, cataclysm, earthquakes, floods. In a single day and night, Atlantis vanished beneath the sea. The ocean reclaimed the magnificent city, leaving nothing but a muddy shoal, a warning to sailors, and a story. Passed from Egyptian priests to Solon, and from Solon to Plato, a tale that would outlive empires and inspire countless dreamers to search for a world lost beneath the waves. Why does this story hold us so tightly? What is it about Atlantis that fuels imagination? The appeal is multifaceted, a tapestry of human hope, curiosity, a touch of romanticism. It speaks to our fascination with the unknown, a lost paradise, a what-if of history, a highly advanced civilization that achieved greatness and then vanished, a secret chapter awaiting rediscovery. Its cultural impact is immense, a cornerstone of speculative fiction, adventure stories, movies, video games, a perfect creative canvas. It lets us explore hubris, unchecked power, the rise and fall of civilization, lost knowledge, and utopian possibility. While many scholars dismiss Atlantis as fiction, others dedicate their lives to proving it. The Search is a detective story, piecing clues from history, geology, and archaeology. Proponents argue Plato's detail is too precise for mere invention. Measurements, geography, lineages. Perhaps a distorted historical memory of a real place and catastrophe. Maybe not a vanished continent, but a known civilization that ended catastrophically. Researchers comb ancient records and geological data. The hunt spans the globe: Mediterranean, Caribbean, Spain, even Antarctica. Pseudo-archaeology popularized Atlantis as mother culture. Donnelly drew parallels between pyramids of Egypt and Mesoamerica, rejected by mainstream science, but revealing our desire for a forerunner civilization. The so-called Bimini Road, large rectangular limestone blocks in a line, to some, man-made, to geologists, natural beach rock. Yet believers see a tantalizing hint, a possible footprint of the lost city in shallow Atlantic waters. Among many theories, one stands out: the Minoan hypothesis, with compelling parallels to Plato. It proposes Atlantis was not a lost continent, but the brilliant Bronze Age Minoans, centered on Crete and Thera, Santorini. They flourished between 3000 and 1100 BC. Advanced art, architecture, trade, and naval power. Around 1600 BC, Thera erupted with staggering force, among the largest in human history. The island's center blew out, leaving Santorini's crescent caldera. Colossal tsunamis radiated across the Aegean, devastating coasts and crippling fleets. Ash clouds, climatic shifts, acid rain, crop failures, an environmental shock accelerating Minoan decline. The weakened Minoans later fell to Mycenaeans, a brilliant civilization, suddenly crippled by disaster, preserved as legend. Over 1,000 years, details shift, locations move, mistranslations creep in, islands grow in the telling. Passed through cultures, the tale accumulates mythical elements. A distorted echo of a Bronze Age catastrophe. Now, let's put on our philosopher's hat. What if the physical search is a fool's errand? Many argue Plato wasn't writing history, but a philosophical allegory, a cautionary tale. Atlantis faces an idealized Athens, a clash of ideologies, justice, governance, the ideal state. Atlantis is rich, powerful, technologically advanced, then corrupted by its own success. It stands for hubris, imperialism, material excess, Athens for virtue and civic spirit. Divine punishment dramatizes moral decay and the limits of empire. Those treasured details, rings or orichalcum beyond the pillars, may be symbolic, not literal. Even the name links to Atlas, power and responsibility. Destruction by water as divine cleansing. Searching for Atlantis can be like hunting Tolkien's Mordor, richly detailed, but a place of ideas. It isn't a sunken city report. It's about building a just society. Apply modern science, and the case for a real continent begins to fall apart. Foremost, a complete lack of physical evidence. A continent sinking around 9600 BC is a monumental claim that would leave unmistakable traces. It would displace vast water, trigger mega tsunamis, and create global sediment signatures. None found. Continents don't simply sink. They drift, collide, and uplift. Granitic crust floats on denser basalt. The Atlantic seafloor is well mapped. Mid-Atlantic ridge, abyssal plains, seamounts, no sunken continent. Archaeologically too, no cities, no writing, no metallurgy trail, no cultural footprint, no Atlantean influence in Egyptians or Greeks. The record is silent. No potsherds, no inscriptions, no tools. Plato is the sole primary source. No Egyptian corroboration, not even Herodotus. That overwhelming silence is perhaps the most damning evidence against a literal Atlantis. The silence of mainstream science hasn't dampened explorers' zeal. For over a century, teams announced they were on the verge of discovery. Edgar Cayce claimed Atlantis used energy crystals and would rise near Bimini around 1968-69. The Bimini Formation electrified followers. Geologists call it beach rock. Searches span Azores, Antarctica, and Spain. A 2011 documentary linked Tartessos to Atlantis, still inconclusive. Again and again, natural formations, ambiguous artifacts, bold claims without verification. Each failed attempt only pushes the search elsewhere. The quest becomes its own legend, a chronicle of human hope, obsession, and a good story that refuses to die. So, how do we separate an ocean of fiction from islands of fact? With the compass of critical thinking. Core fact: Plato wrote a story. Everything else, psychics, ancient astronauts, sonar cities, is speculation. Fact: Minoans existed. Fact: Thera erupted sea with 1600 BC impacting them, verified by geology and archaeology. Fiction: that they were Plato's Atlanteans. Names don't match. Timeline is off by millennia. Location differs. Strange seafloor shapes can be man-made, but far more probably natural. Science runs on evidence and likelihoods. Extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence. Atlantis blends factual echoes, floods, quakes, fallen cities, with fiction and philosophy. The power of the story is that blend. It resonates because it mirrors our very real experiences of disaster and loss, yet remains unverified. It remains a story, perhaps the greatest, about a place that never was. From a cosmic perspective, our planet is a tiny stage, and on it, we tell stories to understand, to warn, to inspire, to dream. Weighing evidence, the scientific conclusion is unavoidable. Atlantis is a myth. Brilliant, powerful, influential. But a myth. The lack of geological, archaeological, and historical evidence is too vast to ignore. But myths aren't lies, they're vessels of truth. Atlantis warns of power's corruption and excess, as relevant to our global civilization as to ancient Athens. Will we heed the warning, or let hubris lead to our own cataclysm? The search also celebrates human curiosity, the same impulse driving exoplanet hunters and deep-sea adventurers. Whether paved with orichalcum or inked on papyrus, Atlantis lives in our collective imagination, reminding us to keep exploring our oceans, our past, our future. The cosmos is waiting,